Okay, so this is the third time that I'm trying to record this video because I've been using the YouTube app the last 2 times and it's crashed on the upload every time. So forgive me if I seem a little bit short. I'm really cranky. This was not how I wanted to spend my evening recording and re-recording 15-minute videos. And yes, this video will probably be about 15 minutes long. So many apologies, my dear students, if I seem really cranky right now. So I'm going to go exactly backwards, basically, from the way that Adventures in Japanese Lesson 9 teaches these kanji. So we're going to start from the bottom. This is to rest. It's an image of a person resting up against a tree. The word for rest is yasumu, yasumimasu. And from that we get yasumi, which means, or oyasumi, the o is sort of optional, which means absence, day off, break. It can mean good night, as well, but that would be oyasumi being short for oyasumi nasai, which is a command form. So good night, literally in Japanese, what you're saying isn't good night. That would be a completely different set of phrases, and it wouldn't mean have a good sleep the way that we mean good night in English. Oyasumi nasai literally means please sleep. So yasumi, a person resting up against a tree. Next one. Year is a pointing finger. We're going to see a lot of this pointing finger element combined with this kind of thing, which is sort of like, I don't know, it's some kind of a box. I always think of it as a box. And a vertical line that does not pop through the top. The word for year in Japanese is toshi, as in, for example, toshi o totte imasu. To be elderly. Toshi o totte imasu. But it can also be pronounced nen, as in, for example, a new reading that we have. So we previously learned that this means kimasu, to come. But if the mas isn't there and it's got instead another kanji, like the kanji for year, this winds up being pronounced rai, not ki, and it means upcoming or the next. And this will be pronounced nen in this case, rainen, next year. Raishu means next week, and raigetsu means next month. Next kanji, another pointing finger, and then basically draw mother, haha. But instead of making 2 dots, we make just a line and then a slash through. And this is the mai of mainichi, every day. Maishu means every week. Every month isn't maigetsu, but actually maitsuki. That's the correct way of saying every month is maitsuki. And every year could be pronounced mainen, but it's more common to have it be pronounced maitoshi. Maitoshi. Next. Now. This is ima, a roof, and then something sort of like a katakana ra, This can be dead straight, this third stroke, or it can be kind of a little bit up and down. Like that. This is ima by itself, like in ima nanji desu ka? It could also be ima. Often in people's names, it will be pronounced ima, like this person. Imada-san. But then things start to get a little weird. It's pronounced kon in words like kongetsu for this month, konshu for this week, but not for today. This is kyo. This is kyo, and it's only kyo. When I was a beginner Japanese student, I thought that I was really smart and thought that you could write konnichiwa using kanji like this. Konnichiwa, but that is not true. You cannot do that. This is only kyo, and people will get confused if you try to write it. If you write this and expect them to read it as konnichi, that doesn't work. It is the kon of konban, but in the greeting, konbanwa, it is typically not written in kanji. We'll learn the ban in lesson 12, so in the spring. It's not kon, but ko when we are writing this year. Kotoshi. Kotoshi is this year, so not kontoshi. It could be konnen, but that's pretty rare. It's not usually pronounced that way. There's a couple other like irregular pronunciations that we'll learn when they become necessary. Then we have another pointing finger to create this kanji, which is se. As in, for example, student, which is our recognition kanji this time, seito. You do have to know how to write this se, but you do not have to know how to write this to. You just have to be able to recognize this combo when you see it as seito, student, or pupil, or something like that. Seito. Officially, this se means life or born, but it's often used to mean student as well. As for example, ichi nen sei, 2年生, 3年生, 4年生, etc. This is how you write grades in school. That's sei. You'll also, on like official documents, see this. Born, year, month, day. This is a sort of official speak for birth date as opposed to birthday, right? And we pronounce it seinen gappi. Seinen gappi. You are not required to remember this, but for those of you who are kind of kanji heads, you really like kanji and you like the idea of like popping open an official document like a visa application or something and being able to actually read the Japanese rather than relying on the English translation. Seinen gappi, the birth date. And this is also the jo of tanjobi. Again, you don't have to know this if you don't want to waste brain power remembering this right now, that this is pronounced jo in tanjobi, but it is kind of an interesting little thing. And there's many other pronunciations of this kanji. And finally, this sen like in 先週 for last week, or 先月 for last month, is also sen in sensei, teacher. You can think of the teacher as being a person. This means ahead, this kanji. Ahead. And you can either think of this as life, so he lived ahead of you, or he was a student ahead of you. In any case, they had he or she had previous life or previous experience before you did. So this kanji for ahead, think of the legs down here as legs ahead, going ahead, and this is a pointing finger again, so you can think of it as a finger like pointing the way for all of the people to run ahead of everybody else. That might help you remember that it's this kanji first and then this kanji. I often get people who memorize these together as a unit, and then they're writing this for teacher. This isn't teacher. This is seisen, which is nothing. So we have yasumu, yasumi. We have year, toshi, like in toshi o totteimasu. Rai pronunciation, like in rainen. Mai, as in mainichi or maitsuki. Ima, as in ima nanji desu ka? Or kon, as in konban. Se, as in ichinensei and sensei. Now we have our sen, our se. Ima, my new reading of rai. Toshi, oyasumi, and then don't forget our recognition kanji for this time is seito. A nice bundle of kanji to get memorizing.